Welcome to the Summer Standout series. This series aims to create a month of conversation around what standout means in the accounting space. So what it means, how it's relevant, how it benefits a firm and its clients, and has this changed over time, and what role does it need to play in the future? I think that standout and marketing has always had a bit of a dirty word, but differentiation, if you call it difference, it does have a place in all sectors, including accounting and bookkeeping. And the sooner we grasp the nettle, the more opportunity we'll have. So there's a massive opportunity to build standout as a superpower and to drive better value. And I think our guest today, Lucy Cohen, CEO of Mazuma, accountant, needs no introduction really. And I suspect that she stands out, one of the most standout people there is in terms of the awards that she's won. And I know this is going to be really embarrassing now for
Yeah,
you,
I'm a
Lucy,
cringe
but
over here now.
Short Business Book of the Year 2022, AAT Past Presidents Award 22, Outstanding Contribution Award, Accounting Excellence 21, Woman of the Year at the Accounting and Finance Awards 2020, Practice Fit Innovation Award, blah, blah, blah. I mean, Disruptor of the Year at Great British Entrepreneur Awards 2019. The list goes on. So I'm really kind of thrilled to have you here. And I looked at your profile just before we started this, and I loved a quote that says, "Don't give me pink balloons and platitudes." And I think actually, Lucy, you are so standout for being you. So tell us a bit more. What does the person who's been under a rock need to know about you?
So I founded Mazuma when I was 23 with my best friend Sophie Hughes. Um, that was in 2006. So I'll let you do the sums on how old I am now. We've been around a while. We were the first ever subscription-based service for accountancy, and we've grown from there. So we've been going nearly 18 years now. We are now a multi-seven-figure company. I think we are the largest female-founded firm, I think, in UK history. So we've really kind of taken that area by storm, and it's been through applying a manufacturing business model to a service-based business, basically. So neither myself nor Sophie came from a practice background when we set Mazuma up. We just spotted a gap in the market, wanted to problem solve, and came up with a way of doing it. And that's very much been our raison d'etre. I'd say I get my jollies problem solving. I love solving a problem. I'm not necessarily an implementer. I'm a kind of Kickstarter. I'm not the person who's going to implement it. That's where I'm strong at building a team around me who can do that stuff. But certainly in terms of solving problems, that's what I like to do. And that's been the entire business journey. I've said a few times on stage and in various different places, the first business advisor I ever saw told us that Mazuma was a terrible idea and that we shouldn't do it. And we went and did it anyway. And so I think that basically sums up who I am as a person.
Yeah, and I really want to kind of get into that a little bit more, because I think sometimes we forget the journey that you've been on and just how different it was from the get-go, wasn't it? And continues to be so. And that's really important. So, in terms of standout, what does that mean to you, that kind of standout phrase, and how important do you think it is today within the space?
Look, everybody wants to be different. You're either cheapest or fastest or most different. You want a differentiator. Nobody really wants to compete just on price. So you need to have a differentiator and you need to stand out. For us, back in the early days, we live in a world now of cloud technology. In 2006, when I started my company, social media didn't exist, cloud technology didn't exist. We had to set up a system that worked in basically a very analog world. I can't explain the challenges that kind of created for us as a business. Somebody coming on to monthly payments for an accounting firm now, it is pretty standard. No one did that when we started, and we were told it was stupid to do that because it wasn't the model that people followed. So we've stood out through our differentiation, through our business model. I've always been quite cheeky with marketing. I don't mind being a bit kind of, disruptive in terms of messaging, because our business model was disruptive. You can't have a disruptive business model and then talk about yourself as if you're like everybody else. So for me, standing out, it doesn't have to mean being zany and quirky and, you know, whatever else, but it's about the application of your core principles that make you stand out. And honestly, a lot of it's quite boring. It's doing that stuff and honing it over and over and over again, and iterating it, and making sure that the reason you stand out continues to be there. And then it's developing, innovating, and staying ahead of the curve. Because when we started, we were the only ones who did it. Now everybody does it. So what are we doing next to keep standing out? What are we doing next to stay ahead of that curve? And that's what I'm interested in. That's what it means to me.
Yeah. So for me, I really want to find out about the future and what that actually means to you, and we'll get to that. But in terms of somebody telling you you were stupid, you should not be doing this, you are setting out a model that nobody else has done, which is
Yeah.
a manufacturing model. Why? Why did you do it? Where did you get the idea? Why did you do it? And why didn't you listen to them? Sorry, 3 questions. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
I often ask myself, why am I doing this? So the background of it, again, it just came from problem solving. On day one, the business plan wasn't, this is a professional services business and I'm going to put a manufacturing business model in it. That wasn't that wasn't the headline. That's not what I wrote on the business plan. What I looked at was, my family are, I grew up in a family of self-employed people, creatives, actors, dancers, musicians, amazing at what they do, horrible at finance. I saw this once a year schlep to an accountant's office. I saw a system that didn't work, to my mind, for anybody. I was looking at my parents going off with their little accordion folder of receipts once a year to an accountant's and being stressed about what their tax bill was going to be, stressed about what the accountant's bill was going to be in January. And it just kind of, I was like, well, that's not great. That's stressful. And then I was thinking about the accountant side of it and thinking, well, you don't know how many clients you're going to get this year. Where are you making your money? Like, how can you have all this workload bottlenecked at one part of the year and not spread it out? And also your income, so we didn't grow up with a lot of money. Financial security is important to me. So I wanted to also build something where I could charge people monthly for something so that I knew what my income was going to be so I could pay my rent. That's where it came from. It just came from, how am I going to solve this set of problems? And it turned into, right, well, if I got, let's go back to the beginning. What do you need to do a set of accounts? You need source documents, you need all that stuff. Okay, well, if I can have them once a year, I can have them monthly. So let's have them monthly. That means I get to produce something monthly and I get to charge something monthly. It also means I'm not bottlenecking myself later in the year, and I can spread my workload out. So overall, just in my head at 23, that just made way more sense than the alternative. And I didn't come with any kind of hang-ups of what an accountancy firm should look like, because I hadn't worked in practice. So I just came in with okay, I think this is how I'm going to deliver this service. I think there's a gap for this. I think people will like it. This is what I'm going to do. And that was it. It was just this case of going, I'm going to problem solve.
Yeah. So you basically found a gap,
Mm-hmm.
a really big gaping gap, and you filled it.
Yeah,
essentially.
that was what we wanted to do. And it was a real challenge at first, because the number one question we got asked is, well, this is so great, why isn't anyone else doing it? And that's really hard to answer when you're a 23-year-old with no resources and no marketing budget, literally like £100, and no job anymore, because I was very impulsive and just quit my job. It's really hard to answer and go, everybody else is dumb. Like, I don't know why, because the whole industry's broken. And as a 23-year-old, how am I supposed to stand there in front of people and say everything you're doing is wrong? It's really hard to do that. And actually, over the years, it's continued to be hard to do that. I'm old enough and ugly enough now that people actually listen to me. But back in those early days, when I was young and inexperienced, and I've talked about the kind of sexism involved in it as well, it was really hard to get that message across. So we just used to get asked all the time, well, if this is so great, why doesn't everyone else do it? And I was like, I can't answer that question. I'm not everyone else, but I think this is a really great solution. Try it and see if you like it.
So you were questioned and you did it anyway. So
Yeah,
that is a true disruptor, isn't
constantly questions. Yeah. And to keep the faith. There's so many times over the years where you get the questions and it's hard. It's like constantly having to fight through thicket just to get to the path. And so many times you think, why am I doing this? Like, this is probably easier ways, but there's just this little thing inside me that's going, because you're right. because you're right, and so you just need to keep going until people see it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things about standout for me is, I mean, obviously with yours, it's like there was a gap, there was something specific, but then you actually worked around the business model and set up all of the tools that you needed, including, people sending back via envelopes and that sort of thing. Tell me about how that worked, because that's really important. You may have a niche, you may have a position, but if you're not doing something differently to kind of showcase that, then it means nothing, does it?
Yeah, I mean, there's no point being, brilliant at something if you're not telling anyone about it. So we we used purple envelopes for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the colour stood out from all the other posts. Secondly, they were the cheapest ones we could buy in Staples at the time. We didn't have any money. They were on sale. Bought a buckload. So I was like, oh, what's the meaning behind purple? Honestly, I used to make up stories about why we picked the colour purple as if we'd really thought about it. We didn't. That was why we went with it, because that was what we could afford. So it's become part of our branding. But they do stand out against all the other, brown envelopes and white envelopes. That purple envelope stands out. And in fact, even now, even though the percentage of our client base that physically use purple envelopes is way lower than it used to be because we've got digital tools, people still refer to us as like, oh yeah, yeah, Mazuma, the purple envelopes. Like that stuck. It was a hook. And sometimes when you have a hook, even if it's not the hook you wanted, if people relate to it, go with it. Because if that's how they're going to remember you, and that's how you get in there, live in their heads rent free, sometimes you have to lean into it. I quite often say that it doesn't really matter if I like my brand; it matters that our audience likes my brand, and that's it. Like it's not about me; it's about what they want, which kills me when I come up with all my lovely marketing ideas, and then someone's like, "Yeah, Lucy, no one cares. It's not going to work. No one cares about this." But the envelopes. So we used to just say to people, put everything into a purple envelope, send it to us, post it. We'll do all the work. We'll send it back every month with management accounts and stuff. And you do that over 12 times over the year. And then you get your year end accounts and tax returns done kind of as soon as we've got all the year end bits and bobs ready. That was it. That was the model. That's still the model. That's still what we do now, 18 years later.
Yeah.
We've just refined it, we've honed it, we've become more efficient, we've got built a platform that it runs on. Yeah, it's just much bigger than it was, but it's fundamentally the same idea.
Yeah, but there's a lot of Lucy in there, isn't there? In terms of the way you do things. You said, that's just me. If somebody says you can't do it, then I do it. How's that sort of personality come through? Because I think it has, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. From the very early days, it sort of had to. We didn't have money to launch marketing campaigns, so we used PR. We knew that we were a very PR friendly story, so we used that to our advantage to get our name out there. I have never been scared of calling stuff out when I see it, so I've used my voice to be able to speak about, what I see as inequalities or areas for improvement within the industry. I've always used my voice to do that ever since I've been very young. I've got this really kind of core belief in what's right and what's not, and I think that feeds into what we do. For example, we constantly get asked, "Oh, well, why aren't you diversifying? Why aren't you working with larger clients and stuff like that?" I'm like, because that's not what we do. It doesn't make any business commercial sense for us to do that because we do one thing well, and that's all we do. Um, that's been very much at the core. I like to master something. We had this idea, it was a good idea, it's grown. The joy of continually honing, mastering, improving, and that focus on something, that's very me. That right, we're seeing this through. What is the focus here? Not getting distracted. That's a in terms of a business strategy. Whilst I'm an infinitely distractible individual, as a business strategy, my focus remains of I'm very driven, and I think that shows in everything that we do. And my voice, the way I write, the way I speak, I think that comes out in our tone and our brand voice.
Yeah, totally. And even some of the ways I've seen some of your advertising, that it kind of breaks the norms of the accounting industry, I would suggest. It's like I've seen things at the petrol stations. You're talking directly to your kind of ideal clients, aren't you?
Yeah,
And referring to receipts on the top of the dashboard and all of that good stuff, which I
yeah,
love. Tell me a bit
yeah.
about that.
It's speaking their language. If I go to a courier driver or dry liner or a plasterer or somebody, and I go, so just upload all you need to do is use optical character recognition to upload all of your source documents, and then I want you to allocate them to a general ledger. They'll look at me like I've got two heads. If I say shove all your receipts in an envelope, we'll handle the rest, that's their language. I always say about our client base, we do work with the micro end of the market. So they are, it's fair to say they're not sophisticated in their needs. Not that they're not brilliant, talented, incredible people. They just don't need some of the very sophisticated tools that other accountants want to sell. And I honestly think it's not fair to try and sell those things to a client base that doesn't need them. It's not cool to sell people things they don't need. What we do is speak to them in their language, identify exactly what they need, and sell them solutions to do that. That is what we are all about. And so, yeah, we have advertised on petrol pumps and at petrol stations because that's where our audience go to fill up their vans to go to their next job. We trial those kind of campaigns to speak to them in their language. We talk about the glove box receipts. We talk about the junk drawer, the receipts junk drawer, the paperwork junk drawer. We talk about that stuff. The kind of words that people would use to describe their own situation. It is about speaking to them in their language.
Yeah, and that is marketing genius.
Thanks.
It really is. The mastery, the finding your niche, finding your focus, talking to them in their own language, knowing what their problems are, that is essentially what it's all about.
Yeah.
And that is standout to me.
Thank you. We're in an interesting phase now in that we've taken on a head of marketing. We're growing now. We received investment in January to build out our tech platform and grow the company. So we have a head of marketing now, and so I'm having these conversations with her, and she's doing all the. What's interesting is as you grow, all the stuff that you kind of know innately or your gut is on, you want to be, because I've got stakeholders and investors and shareholders and stuff. They want data for that. They want that proved. So we are undertaking market research at the moment, and I'm going to be really interested to see the results of that about our brand sentiment. What do people who've never seen our brand before think about it? Because then what we can do is we can start again. We've grown up a bit now, refining and honing that image into, okay, how are they really going to respond? Because we now have evidence that shows us this instead of Lucy just having a gut feel about it. We've now got the data to do this, and we can make all of our next decisions at scale very data driven around that marketing piece. But it's about what is the sentiment? How do they regard the brand? Do they trust it? Are you speaking to them in their language? All that stuff. That's the stuff we're now quantifying into something concrete.
Yeah, and that is the strategy that's really just advanced as the business has got bigger. And as you've said, the commitments are more serious. And ultimately, you probably don't want to lose that sentiment, that personality, that focus and that vision, but you do want to make sure that it's fit for purpose as you grow.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're small, you can be incredibly agile, and I still want to keep that ethos of being agile and being able to move quickly. But we're turning more of a tanker now. We've got over 70 people now. I can't just go, oh, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to change minds, because that affects 15 people and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Whereas when we're much smaller, it affects one person, and I can have a conversation with them and go, let's not do that anymore. Let's do something else. You can be very agile. Just the nature of having more people and a structured organizational chart means that you have to be more considered in how you do this stuff. And that's something I've learned as a leader, as I've grown up as a leader. It's not fair on my team for me to just go, we're not going to do that anymore. Let's change our mind. Because they're like, whoa, they've got whiplash. Like, hang on a second. Whoa, last week you told me to do this, and now you've got to do this. Like, how am I supposed to do a good job for you? So that's something I've learned as a leader. And in terms of the marketing piece, that's that piece again. We can't just run an advert and go, oh, well, that didn't work, and then move on to something else. We need to know why, because that should then inform our next decision. Gut feel is often a good start place. But as you grow up as a business, you do need to have those mechanisms in place so that you're backing yourself up, basically.
Yeah, and good leadership is about having a vision, but also communicating that vision. If it's only in your head and you're moving around and, as you say, giving people whiplash,
Yeah.
that isn't going to be a happy team.
No, it's disruptive. People want to usually want to do well. You'd hope people work for you want to do a good job. You have to let them know what doing a good job looks like. If you're changing your mind every 15 seconds, they can't do that, and it's not fair. And that's something I've had to learn over the years.
Yeah. And how's that changed now that you've got up to 70 people? Because I mean, obviously culture shifts from, 1 to 10, 10 to 30, that sort of thing. What about now?
Yeah, look, we've grown very quickly over the last 6 months. We've gone from, we've added nearly 30 people in over the last 6 months and continuing
Wow.
to grow. We've got, if you look at our website now, I think there's like 8 jobs, 9, 10 jobs up on there that we're recruiting for currently. So it's a huge shift. And that comes with its own challenges. We have a core set of people who've been with us a very long time, and their experience of the company is hugely valued. But because of the nature of what we do, we have to bring in people at a more senior level who have different skill sets. That is understandably going to upset the apple cart a little bit. I have to be very careful about how I communicate that. I won't always get it right. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze. I've got hay fever. No,
You go ahead.
maybe gone. Well, yeah, the hay fever, the pollen count in swans is terrible, by the way, which is why I look like I've got a cold.
Yes. Yeah.
But we've it is a huge shift. I think that I hadn't underestimated what that impact was going to be, but I think, underestimated how much of my time it would take up in terms of thinking about, right, what's the right way to say this? How do we tell people? We did some recent staff culture feedback. I'm always very honest, and some of it was great, and some of it was absolutely horrible and it was really clear that in this period of growth, there are certain things that I thought would be kind of taken as read, obvious. They need communicating better. So I've learned that what I thought was good communication, actually I need to do 2 times as much, because whilst I'm aware that this is for the benefit of the company and everybody else, if I'm asking someone who wants to come to work and do their job and go home again to change something, what's the benefit for them? I need to really over communicate that. So that's something I've very much learned as a leader. I'm always happy to take that stuff on the chin.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about doing that. And then it's about kind of looking at, okay, well, how does my role change? What do? I can't be fiddling around in the weeds of things anymore. I've got other stuff I have to do, and I've got external people. A lot of my time is reporting to people outside of the organization of Mazuma. And then how is that perceived? Does it look like I'm just never around? Does it look like all I do is spend my time going to events? How do I make sure that people know that there's strategy, network alignment, all that stuff happens by those external relationships? And it's a huge, steep, but very exciting learning curve when you do this sort of thing.
Yeah. Over communication is critical.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, over communication means telling people what they need to know. As you said, they need to know more than you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
But they also need to hear it several times.
Yes.
There's that repetition. If you have a vision and a focus and you know where you're going, you need to tell people again and again and again so that they believe it.
Yeah, and so that it's clear that this is our company has and will change as we grow. That we've got an entire technology department now that didn't exist 3 months ago. There's like 8 of them.
Wow.
A whole technology team. And these are new people in the company with a completely different skill set and doing a whole load of stuff that didn't exist. I had a strange kind of out of body experience of the day. So I spoke to Sophie, my co-founder, in our office afterwards. And I was like, gosh, feels like a real company, doesn't it? Like it feels like a real business. And she was like, I know, because a lot of the time it feels like it's held together with sticky tape and toilet tubes. But I was like, cool, it feels like a real business, because I sat in a room with our chief product and technology officer and members of his team, and we looked at he's in his first 90 days. We looked at the 30, 60, 90s, where we were, where we're at, what risks we mitigated, all the rest of that. I'm saying the rule we here. I've not been involved in this really, apart from setting strategy and overarching kind of stuff. And there was a presentation that went up, and I could see all these workflows. All these workflows are happening with different people allocated to them, and things completed and in progress, and temperature and all this kind of stuff. And I looked at all this and I was like, wow, I didn't get involved in any of that. And look at what these people have created. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is a new phase now, because when you've gone from being a small company, you have your hands on everything. You have full visibility of everything all the time in the weeds. And when you grow, you don't have, no one can do that. No one can know everything about everything in a larger company. They just can't. So it's about making sure you've got those reporting lines right and having the right people to run those pieces. Um, and I just had this kind of like out of body experience. I was like, wow, okay, like we're going, like this is happening, we're doing this. And it was just kind of like, yeah, just
Brilliant.
strange moment.
Brilliant. So where is the gap and the disruption going to come from in the future for Mazuma? What's on that
So
kind of horizon?
we are continuing to do what we do well, which is to provide subscription-based accounting services to small and micro businesses. That's still our market, still a huge market, still going after that. You've got legislative changes, MTD coming in, which are going to bolster some of the activity we're doing there. But for us now, it's about building not only that kind of top funnel, so bringing more and more of those clients in natively, but it's about building out channel partnerships with organizations who share a client base, getting those referrals in. We can make channel partners a lot of money. So it's about leveraging that. And then it's about actually, one of my passions is the entire accounting industry having the right tools for the job. And I think that where you look at the real micro market, I think a lot of accountants cling on to those clients because they feel like they should, but actually they're not able to service them profitably. Is that how we're looking at how our product and processes can work with other firms? I'm a big believer in collaboration rather than competition. I don't think that success is pie. I don't think me having a slice of it means there's less pie for you. I think that we can all have plenty of pie. And yeah, I come from a very abundant mindset. So if I can find a way that with our products and processes, we can help other accountants become more efficient and make more money, and then we also make money, and then the clients also get exactly what they need, nobody loses there. So that's kind of the disruption there. I think actually that collaboration in accounting, it definitely did not exist when I started my business. 100% did not exist. I've told some stories about that I don't have time to go into now, but yeah, find some stuff I've spoken about
Yeah.
that before. But that collaboration, that in itself, I think is quite disruptive, because we're not competitors. We
Yeah.
work in the same space to the same goal. We all want the same thing, which is to have successful businesses and service our clients well. We can all do that together. So yeah, that's probably the bit of disruption. Plus, I'd like to do some more cheeky marketing. I quite like to more cheeky
Yeah,
marketing.
so I was going to say about the marketing. So you're doing some research. That is grown up business. That is,
Yeah,
you're a grown up marketing business now. Where do you imagine the brand is going? Because it obviously can't shift massively, but can
no.
you imagine what's going to come back
So
from that?
I don't want to guess really. I think we're going on a workshop tomorrow, so I might know in 24 hours. Um, I look, I don't want to second guess that, because
Yeah,
ultimately my sense on it doesn't matter. It's what how it's perceived. I can't tell people that they perceive my brand incorrectly, because that is their perception of it. So I can't gaslight them about that. What I'm hoping though is that it lets us evolve. So I think that brands don't need to have a huge shift, but they do need to evolve with the times. If you look at all the big brands and their logos, there's that fun thing you do with the logos of how they shift over the years. Yeah, we can do that. We can work our messaging. We can use more current vernacular to talk about what we do, and then just make really, I do like being disruptive. I do like being quite cheeky with marketing. Find a way to, because that keeps the personality and the core ethos of who we were on day one. I want to keep that in there somehow, whether it's Easter eggs or it's something, in order for us to remain cheeky and keeping our tone of voice in a way that resonates with who we want it to resonate with.
great. What advice then have you got for people who listen in? Where's the accounting space going, and what is standout going to mean in the
Oh,
future?
honestly, I think standout is focus. You know,
Yeah.
there are so many vendors and products out there now, each one of them suggesting a silver bullet. And for each individual firm, there might be something that really works for you. But don't lose your focus on what it is you're trying to achieve. And you are a business at the end of the day. If what you're doing is not profitable, you need to have a long, hard look in the mirror and think about that, because you can eat up losses short term if you're on a growth trajectory. Growth is expensive, but longer term, that business has got to work. So it's about that focus. And I think what makes you stand out is staying the course. Don't flit around, stay the course, and that will allow you to stand out.
Great. So for me, I've pulled out mastery, stay the course, really just be consistent.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
consistency.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. It's just been a real joy and a pleasure. The Mazuma brand to me is just amazing, and I've been using it as a case study for as long as I can remember. So I'm
Thank
totally
you.
thrilled that you're here. Thank you so much, and I hope all is going to go really, really well in 2024 for you.
Me too. Thanks, Philippa.
Thanks. Bye. Bye, everybody.